Welcome to the Connect Like Minds podcast. I'm the host, Sharice. I interview people making a difference in their communities and in their creative spaces. Today's special guest is the general manager of North America at Mindspace. With global leadership experience spanning across companies like WeWork, this extraordinary man has been at the forefront of redefining how and where we work. Welcome to the Connect Like Minds podcast, Mark Goldfinger.
Thank you so much for having me, Sharice. I'm super excited to be here and definitely appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you for taking out time out of your busy schedule. I appreciate it.
Of course.
We're going to jump right on into the interview. So tell everyone where you're from.
I'm born and raised in New York City. I'm a proud New York City boy.
Cool.
I have 917 as my zip code. I was fortunate enough in a past life to live abroad for about 5 or 6 years.
Wow.
And I refused to give up my 917 area code, so I still paid Verizon. I trimmed down what I was paying them, but absolutely, I was like, it was super important. But I'm born and bred in New York City.
That's what's up. I am from Maryland, and I still have my 410, even though I'm in North Carolina. So I completely understand.
There we go.
So let's take it all the way back for a moment. You're quite the athlete nowadays.
Thank you.
So I read that you've run 6 world major marathons. Have you always been this athletic as a kid?
Depends who you ask. I think it probably depends who you ask. I think I've always been very active. My dad was super active. People used to joke that my dad only had, 2 switches on and off.
Oh, wow.
If he was awake, he was running around doing something.
Yeah.
And if he was off, he was sleeping. And I think I thankfully inherited that from him. But again, my parents were super supportive as I was growing up, had me in Little League, and soccer, and tennis, and basketball, and volleyball, and swimming. And then they never pushed me into one specific thing. They kind of let me find my own groove. And then I got into running. Probably, I think I've always been into running, especially being in New York City and watching the marathon for so many years. It was like a really exciting thing. And I always joked with my mom that I wanted to run it and, be one of the people to do that. And I was fairly fast growing up, whether it was playing soccer or tennis. So I was able to kind of translate a lot of that. So I had a good foundation to start with. And then I ended up getting into it, and I was like, oh, these long runs aren't as crazy as everyone makes it. Let's do it. And after Hurricane Sandy in 2012, which was the first year that that they actually canceled the New York City Marathon, I was living in London. I watched it all happen. And then there was the bombing later on that year at the Boston Marathon right after. I was I really had it in my mind that I wanted to run the New York City Marathon. Now was the year for me to do it. It was super important. So I looked into different ways to run, and I learned that you could actually run for a charity. And about a year and a half prior, my dad had been diagnosed with prostate cancer. And I had become very involved in a charity called Movember, which is for men's prostate and testicular cancer and men's health. And I learned that they had a team at the New York City Marathon. So I signed up to run with them. I ran the first one with them, and the rest was kind of history.
Wow. Well, first of all, I'm sorry to hear about your father's diagnosis.
Thank you.
Has he been able to be in remission?
He fought it back and forth for about 8 years. And then in January of 2018, he unfortunately, he let it get the better of him, and he had passed, but it was after a really good fight. And like I said, he did everything with a smile on his face, and even that was with a smile.
Well, my condolences. I'm sorry to hear that.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that.
What were some of the other locations of these major marathons that you run?
Yeah. So Abbott World Major Marathons, they had 6. They've now opened it up to 7. So in the US, it's New York, Boston, and Chicago.
Okay.
And then internationally, it was London, Tokyo, and Berlin. And then last year, the Sydney Marathon became the 7th World Major.
Wow.
I have not run that one yet. I don't know if I'll get to. But I was very proud to be one of the first 5,000 participants to run all 6 world majors.
Wow.
And since completing that in 2019, I've done New York City 2 additional times, and now I'm slated to do Chicago in October if my body holds it.
Wow, man, that's really cool. That just shows
Thank
what type
you.
of person you are. Resilient.
Or crazy, or crazy. Either or, really.
I think the most I've ever ran is probably like 16 miles. And that was because I was in the
That's awesome.
Marines and I just used to run all the time. And I don't
I
know if you heard of Lejeune, but I ran from my barracks to the gate and back to my barracks, but that was like the most I've ever
I would argue that shows a lot more resilience than me just running a marathon for fun. You're doing it
ran.
for a much larger purpose, and I thank you on behalf of all of us
Oh, thank
for your service as
you.
well.
Thank you. So what's your training regimen like? Because you said you want your body to hold up to the next marathon in Chicago, right?
Yep. Well, I'm mid 37,
Okay.
maybe getting closer to 40. Uh, so the body's getting old.
Yeah,
The body's
mine is
aching.
too.
You sleep on your neck ring and you're out of commission for like 2 weeks versus when you were in your 20s, you went out to 5 a.m., woke up at 7 and were in the office. And that was sleeping probably on a floor. I mean, my regimen, I'm very, very strict with my regimen during the week.
Mhm.
And then I think on the weekends, I like to have a little bit more fun with it, right? At
Yeah.
the end of the day, I'm never going to be an elite runner. I'm not getting paid to do this. I want to be proud of the time that I put up, but I also want to still have fun. Like I'm not willing to give up all of my social life for this. I wake up probably at 5 a.m. every day,
Okay.
between 4:30 and 5. Right now, because Mindspace is Israeli-based company, our HQ sits in Tel Aviv,
Mhm.
which ultimately means that I'm 7 hours behind our HQ.
Mhm.
So I wake up at around 4:35.
Wow.
I answer a couple emails, do a couple work things, and then I'll typically go out for some sort of run or workout with my best friend, who's one of my training partners. And then usually I'm back in the house by 6:15, 6:30, when I'm like really in the routine, shower, and then usually at my desk by 7:30.
Wow, man. All of that before 7:30 a.m.
Usually, but it makes you feel good because it's like, if you take the subway to work,
Yeah.
it's like, you're on the subway at 7:15 and everyone's groggy and you're like,
I'm amped.
let's go.
Yeah,
Like I'm in. I ran 12 miles this morning, crushed a workout, like already answered emails. Like what's next?
man. I totally understand. The closest thing I do to that is go to the gym every morning at 6. That's the closest thing.
There we go. We're both very regimented here. Let's not pretend we're not.
Okay, maybe I downplayed it just a little bit.
There we go.
Now, you strike me as a disciplined type of person, and hearing about your father and your parents in general, they seem like they were supportive. What did your parents do to encourage whatever plans you had after high school?
It's a good question.
Thank you.
I think it was interesting, right? I think I've always had a very good relationship with my mom.
Mhm.
She's always, Jewish mother, always going to be supportive. I could come in last place. She's like, "You did really well, honey," which I, of course, appreciated.
Yeah.
And you need that. You need the accolades.
For sure.
Especially to balance out, I felt like with my father. And she still holds me to a very high standard. And as I got older, the accolades weren't if I came in last place, by all means. But with my dad, I always felt like I always had to do more. It was like I used to joke that I could come home with 100 on an exam. My dad would be like, "Why do you get 105?" And if I said to him there were no extra credit, he was like, "Well, why didn't you make one up?"
Yeah.
Now, let's be clear, I was not anywhere near a straight A student either. So getting 100 also wasn't happening, but that was always the example I gave.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, I am very, very fortunate. Both my parents were very supportive of pushing me to go after what I always wanted to do. I think they always challenged me. They held me to a very high standard. They taught me the value of a dollar, while also showing me like when you work really hard, you can go on these nice vacations. And if you have the opportunities in front of you, then it's really up to you to go after them and take them. And you can't blame others for not doing that. And they continued to push me. And then I think as I continued to grow in my career, even when I was making tough decisions between, personal life and work life and what work-life balance looked like, or where I was going to live around the world, I think my parents were always very supportive and were very excited for me about what I was doing. My mom kind of gave up her career when I was born and then went to be an executive assistant after spending the first couple of years with me at home,
Wow.
and just kind of went on a different life path, which was amazing for her, and I super appreciated. And my dad was third generation in a family hardware store in Williamsburg, New York City,
Okay.
or Williamsburg, Brooklyn, New York City. So all the jobs that I was going after in advertising and marketing, and then when I joined WeWork, this startup culture, it was like super different. Like they didn't really understand kind of it.
Yeah.
But they were so excited for me, and they saw that it was like giving me so much joy that I think they were just really supportive, and it became something really fun to talk to them about.
That's awesome. And I feel like that's a great transition into this next segment. So the next segment is
Yeah.
called Digging Deeper. And during this segment, I'll ask you some thought-provoking questions about your personal life and career, more so your career, but maybe a little bit personal, just to get your
We can,
your opinions on things.
they cross over hand and foot, so no stress there.
Cool. What college did you attend?
So I ended up graduating from Hunter College, which is City University of New York, with a BA in economics.
Okay, that's very cool. Did you also play sports while you were there?
I did. I played tennis. I was the captain of our college tennis team. I started out at Hartford in Connecticut. I then did a semester in Buffalo, and then I ended up coming back to Hunter. And I ended up playing college. And I played tennis there. We won 2 conference championships. We got our butts handed to us in the first round both years at nationals. But it was still pretty cool to go to NCAA.
Yeah, at least you made it that far. Some people don't even make it that far. So that's awesome, man.
I appreciate the last place accolades.
Stop. I'm serious. I played, I played basketball in college my first year, and I was trash. Okay. And I was trash in high school. I think the only reason they let me on the team was because I could run really fast, and I ran faster than everyone. Okay. That was a long time ago.
We all have our skill sets.
Looking back today, do you believe the degree that you got from college help prepare you where you are in your career today?
No, I do not. I am not an economist whatsoever. I wish I did better in school. I think I did well in college, especially towards the last couple of years. I really increased my GPA, and I was very proud of it. But I don't know if I retained everything that I really wish I did, especially from like a business perspective. I think I wish I took it more seriously. But I think what really helped me and what I always really saw was that like you have to go after what you want. And if there's opportunities to work during college, to take internships and things like that, that was the stuff that I think really helped give me a grasp on how valuable like real life experience would be. And I think I really leaned into that, and that I think helped me massively get to where I am today.
Okay. What are your thoughts on entrepreneurs who choose not to go after a degree?
I think it's a tough one. I think every kind of, I don't know if I want to say every 5 years, but maybe every like 10 years, maybe every decade, give or take, it changes, right? I think when I was growing up, you had to go, like if you wanted to be an executive, if you wanted to really grow your like career, not only did you need an undergraduate degree, but having an MBA was super, super valuable. Now I think having an undergraduate degree is definitely valuable, but I don't know if it holds the same weight. And again, I'm not I'm not someone in education. I don't know if I have like the validity to say this. But I think right now it's much more important for people to get trained in areas of like business that they're very excited about and that they want to participate in, right? I think you don't need to spend $500,000 on a degree that you're never going to use and go into debt for it, right? I think if you want to go into a trade school or something like that after high school, and you could still learn all of the kind of like general knowledge that you would get in years 1 and 2 of college, I think that's probably still very valuable. It's actually a conversation I have with my best friend constantly about like what discussions we would have with our child. with our individual children.
Yeah.
If they came to us and was like, I don't want to go to college, this is what I want to do, and I'd be like, all right, well, like, let's talk about this. Like, I'm not saying you have to go to college, but like, you're not going to sit at home and play PlayStation all day, right? Like,
Right.
you need to have a plan in place. Like, oh, I want to go how to be an engineer. I want to go how to learn how to code. Whatever that step is, I think is probably right now more valuable than anything else.
I totally agree. You got to be intentional with what you're going to do next, especially after high school, for sure.
Yeah.
Now, before you,
I very much agree. I think it's all about the intention.
absolutely. Before you walk us through the journey of how you ended up with WeWork, can you tell us what WeWork is for those who may not know?
Yeah, sure. So WeWork is a global co-working operator. They provide flexible offices for entrepreneurs, founders, startup companies, and Fortune 500s. I think WeWork was probably one of the first true co-working disruptors across the globe.
Yeah.
Now, working for Mindspace, which has been around for pretty much just as long. I think we're able to be much more intentional and kind of showcase how we can be very operationally focused on the growth path that we've set for ourselves. And I think a lot of other operators are able to kind of capture things that were missed maybe in the first growth of co-working that led some companies to not be as successful as others.
Okay. Can you take us through the journey of how you ended up at WeWork and then you ended up, after leaving there, becoming the general manager for a continent? Like, that's pretty amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, so I was really lucky. I was one of the first 300 employees at WeWork. One of my best friends and oldest friends was one of the first 75 employees there, and he ran the real estate team. And when I came back from grad school, I was working for an ad agency or a marketing company, and it was fine, but I definitely wasn't, where I was super passionate. And I had noticed that this role had opened up at WeWork called an expansion lead. So I came and I asked him about it. He was like, dude, come for a tour. I'll introduce you and we'll take it from there. I walked into the space and I was just really amazed by the spirit, the hustle, the energy, the creativity that was like flowing. Like, you walked into a WeWork and you like really felt something like all the way through your body. And I was like, this is definitely a place where I want to be working. Like, this seems really cool. I applied for the role as this expansion lead, which basically meant every 3 months, I went to a different city, state, or country to help open up WeWork from a sales, marketing, and community perspective. I was lucky enough to get hired. I joined, I trained in New York, and then they asked me if I wanted to go to LA or if I wanted to go to London. As we started with this podcast, I'm a born and bred New Yorker. Therefore, I have no desire to ever go to LA or be there. I had also just come back a year and a half earlier from getting my MBA out in London. So I was looking for an excuse to go back there. So I said, let's go to London. I helped open up our third and fourth locations out there. I then ended up moving to Austin, Texas to help with an expansion, then moved to Denver, Colorado to help with opening of our first two locations. I then moved back to New York because I wanted to live with my girlfriend at the time. I told the company I was done traveling, moved in with her. 2 weeks later, they offered me a role in London. I ended up taking the role in London. Later on, unfortunately, that relationship did not work out, but I'm very happily married now, so all things work in the right way. And then I ended up being out in London and helping WeWork run their European expansion from a pre-sales perspective. I was fortunate enough to help out in Germany, in Southeast Asia, India. At one point, I found my name on an org chart as the head of sales for Greater China for 6 months, and I lived in Shanghai, which was incredible. And then ultimately, I ended up coming back to the US to run global expansion for about a year and a half pre-COVID. And then, of course, COVID happened, which completely changed the entire way people work. It was a horrific event or pandemic, excuse me. But I think it accelerated the need for co-working operators like Mindspace or WeWork or Industrious or the Malin or any of these guys who are all doing incredible things. I then left WeWork at the end of 2020 to do an e-commerce company. I think I was number 4 or 5 there. It was with an old friend and very good mentor and boss of mine who asked me to come join the company. We grew to about 200 people and 175 million in revenue, which was a ton of fun. And then Mindspace reached out, and I was looking for something new. And I made a joke like if I would even go back into the co-working world. I think I had like 12 different interviews, and every interview went longer than expected because we were just talking strategy. And it felt like from the first call I had that I was like part of the family already. And I got the offer and I took it, and it's been an incredible year and a half, almost 2 years now.
Wow, that's really cool. What an amazing journey. Would you say those experiences those job opportunities came because of networking?
I think they 100% came from
Mm,
networking. I think they came from also giving up everything on my personal life to go headfirst into work.
yeah.
I think, and I don't necessarily say that this is like the right way to do it, but I have like very large ambitions. And I think, at 24, 25, 26, 28 years old, your job is to set your career up
Hmm.
for long term success. And I saw there was an opportunity in front of me where if I dove headfirst and worked 100-hour weeks, 8 days a week, that there would be something worth it at the end of the tunnel.
Hmm.
And I wouldn't change a thing.
That's awesome. What problem does flexible workspace actually solve for businesses? For people who are listening who still may not understand exactly what's going on within these companies, what they're doing.
Yeah, I think it solves for a variety of things, right? One, as like startups or small medium sized businesses, SMB companies, it allows them the opportunity to plug and play, to not have to look for their own real estate, to not have to source furniture, Wi-Fi, coffee, tea, water, all those things. Uh, they could just come, sit down, turn on their computer, and start working. Right?
Yeah.
It also allows them to have the flexibility to scale. Startups these days don't know, they have an idea. Founders think they're like, all right, I want to get to 10 people by this time, 15 people by this, then we'll hit this revenue metric, this profitability metric, then we'll do another hire. But a lot of times that growth pattern happens either a lot quicker or takes a lot longer than the founders expected.
Hmm.
So when they're able to work in a co-working space like Mindspace, they can scale up and down as they see fit because that's what our offices are designed for. When you flip to the other side of the coin for large enterprises, Fortune 500s, a lot of times like what they're trying to do is either a try and like navigate this new like hybrid work scenario where we'll have team A come in Monday, Wednesday, Friday, team B come in Tuesday, Thursday. And I'm making this
Yeah.
up, right? But if you're only having people come in half time, as a CFO and as a head of real estate, I don't want to be paying for 200,000 square feet of commercial real estate on my P&L. Like that's a huge liability for
Yeah.
me. So if I can get rid of that and I can just sign on to a service like Mindspace where I can have space for my entire team to come in as they need to, and it could be on a 6-month term or a 12-month term, this gives me a lot more ability to be flexible with the space.
Yeah, you just answered my next question because I was going to ask, why are these large corporations doing this? But you just answered. Now, you've seen teams across continents. How does physical environment impact productivity?
Massive. I think everyone wants to be like, oh, I can be super productive at home. And yes, you can. Like, I'm not going to, I've done it before. I've worked remote full time, in my company in between WeWork and Mindspace. But you are more productive when you come into an office, right? There's less distraction. So that's always going to just like naturally help you, right? If you have 15 minutes or 20 minutes and you're working from home and you have this like 15-minute break in between calls, maybe you're going to put the laundry in, maybe you're going to turn on the TV, you're going to do something, right? Whereas if you have 15 minutes in between a call at work in the office, maybe you're going to like be like, all right, let me answer 2 more emails, or let me go get a cup of coffee. And while I'm doing that, I run into 2 other colleagues and I could actually talk to them about something.
Yeah.
So just being in the same space with them like creates this additional productivity.
Hmm.
I also think there's this level of like ease of solving problems. So, I have like one of my right hand sits in New York City, and when we're working from home, I Slack him, or, I'm like, hey, can we jump on a quick call? When we're both in the office, I just go next door and I'm like, hey, dude, like, let's chat about this real quickly. Like, let's hammer this out. So you get things done so much quicker.
Yeah.
And then also, like, there's just, we talked about this at the beginning, Sharice, but like, there's this idea of like routine and regimen, right?
Right.
Like, when you have this routine, or when you're working from home and you have an 8:30 call, I don't know, chances are, even if you're very regimented, maybe you're rolling out of bed at 8:15 and you're like, all right, because I know after my 8:30 call, I have one more 9 o'clock call, and then I have an hour break. So I'll work out in the middle of the day, things like that, right? But if you have an 8:30 meeting at the office, you're up at 5 or up at 6, you're doing the gym workout, you're in the office by, 8 o'clock, half hour to prep, and then you go through the day. So I think there's so much benefit to being inside a space, that people often forget that. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand why people want some sort of like hybrid workforce and remote like opportunity. But being that we're on this side of the coin and that we run an operator, like, I think coming into a space, like, I don't have to be into the office every single day. I can work from home, or remote if need to. And if I take my daughter to the doctor, I do. But in reality, like, I want to be here with my team, right?
Right.
A, I think it sets a good example, but B, it's just like, it's so much better to be in the office, like, get everything I need done.
I totally agree. I couldn't agree more. How do the needs of a startup differ from a Fortune 500 client?
In this specific, I think in this specific question, for everything that we're talking about, a startup is going to need someone to kind of help tell them what they need from an office space perspective,
Mm-hmm.
and walk them through why a company like Mindspace is going to be such a great solution for them. Whereas at an enterprise level, you're going to also really want a very consultative approach, to be like, let me sit down with your hiring plan, with your hiring managers. Let's talk about what kind of growth you see in the next 3, 6, 9 to 12 months. And then let me show you how Mindspace can solve for that. Now, I think also on the startup side, you also still need someone to help like sit down with you in a hiring plan and like walk you through your growth. But I think it's a little bit more important at the enterprise level to be able to have those conversations.
Okay. And for my final question before we go to the next segment, what's a hard leadership lesson that you had to learn the long way?
So this is my favorite leadership. Like, this is my leadership philosophy. When the team does well, the team does well. When the team failed, you failed. And I think it's really, really easy to try and take credit to the executive team when things are going well, and then place blame when it's not. But in reality, it needs to be flipped, right?
Mm-hmm.
My team on the ground needs to get the credit for all the hard work that they're doing. If they're getting the credit, leadership knows that it's also me, because I'm here sitting in this chair. But when they fail, it's taking ownership and accountability, with the executive team, and then sitting down directly with the people that aren't getting the things done correctly, and trying to navigate and work with them in a positive way forward.
Is there any example that where that has happened for you that you're allowed to talk about in life? You don't have to talk about it with this business. Maybe it happened at another business.
Yeah, no, I mean, when I first moved into a sales director role back in 2016, I was like my first real like managerial role.
Mm-hmm.
And I was getting a ton of pressure from my boss to grow. And I was kind of just like taking that pressure, and putting it directly on my team. And I was like, why aren't you guys doing this? Like, and I was like not handling it very well. And it like really was a little bit toxic. I didn't like it either.
Yeah.
And I learned very quickly, like, when my boss puts pressure on me, that is very different than the pressure that I can put on my team, right? I need to take all of the pressure that he's putting on me. If that's at 100%, I need to absorb, let's call it 30%,
Mm-hmm.
and then take that 70% and put that 70% on my team. That 70% for them, I think, will feel like 100, but because it's at different levels, right?
Right.
And the pressure that's coming down for me is probably also absorbed at some level. And I think learning that was definitely a tough thing to understand, like how much pressure you could really put on people
Mm-hmm.
without completely breaking.
I feel that. Yeah, I learned that while I was in the military.
I believe that
Chain of
100%.
command.
100%. Absolutely.
Yeah, like the privates, they'll be mad at like the corporals and the sergeants. The corporals and the sergeants are going to be mad at like the staff sergeants or the gunnery sergeants, and then on up, and everybody has a boss. So
Everyone always has a boss,
so
and at home and in work.
yep, for sure. The next segment is called Uncomfortable Questions. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
All right, all right. During this segment, I'll ask you either or questions, and you must choose an answer and explain why. And you have to choose one or the other. You don't get to opt
Deal.
out of it. Okay.
Deal.
So this involves tennis, since I know you like
All right.
tennis. Serve first or return first?
I like to return first.
Why?
I don't think my serve was that strong.
Okay.
So I wanted to be able to come out of the gate super fast. I also, I think I like to play defense, build on my foundation, and then attack when I'm ready.
Ooh, I like that. I like that. Train alone or with a group?
Training with a group is always better because it will push you if you train with the right people.
Okay. That's a solid answer. I prefer to train alone.
I like my runs. I like a small group.
Okay.
I don't like big
Yeah.
groups. I like it. I like to train with a group, but on my schedule.
Okay. Take calculated risk or play it safe?
Calculated risk, always. I think you need to take calculated risk. I think taking uncalculated risk is silly and gets you into trouble. But I think taking calculated risk allows you to advance your career.
Credit or cash?
Cash is king. Cash is always king.
Yeah.
I love credit card points. Don't get me wrong, and I love to capitalize on that. But you just feel like Tony Soprano when you walk around with a wad of cash.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's fun on a night out.
Inspire others or execute quietly?
I like to think that I could inspire others, but I like to make sure that we're getting the job done. But I think I don't need I don't need my success to be always highlighted.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of like it goes into like a little bit of both. But I think my job right now and my position is to inspire others to do their job and make sure that they have the tools to do it successfully.
I think your life inspires others, man. That's what I think.
You're very kind. That takes one to know one 100%. Thank you. That's very sweet. It means a lot.
You're welcome. The final segment is called Rants with Sharice. And during this segment, you get to rant about whatever it is that you want. You could rant about people not using signal lights, people not bathing or not wearing deodorant, whatever you want. But after your rant, you have to give us a solution to fix the rant. So the floor is yours.
I love that. Drives me crazy when my wife comes home and just throws her things all over the place. Like I am very OCD.
Mm-hmm.
I am very organized. We've been together now for 6 years. She knows this, but she doesn't change it. My solution is just hang up your coat when you come into the house. I don't know if that's like an actual solution, but it works. So I think that's on my personal side, and she's always listening to my podcast, so she knows I give her crap for this one. I think from a professional side, it's just not having the same work ethic that I have. I don't always expect people to hold themselves to a high standard, and I think there's so much more that I could do. Let's be like super clear here. I am by no means perfect whatsoever.
Sure.
I still have a ton to work on. But I think it's like I want to get better and I want to learn. And it's very frustrating for me when people are very happy to coast.
I feel that, you put in the work and then other people are just like, just on for the ride. Whatever. And that's it. Like, come on.
Correct.
Yeah. I made up in my mind a long time ago that I was always going to outwork whatever I've done in the past. Like I'd be, my own competition, but it sucks when you're in a team and other people, you're doing more work than everyone else. So I get that.
It's super tough, right? But you have to figure out ways to navigate that and ways to carry the team without like being like, I've done all this work, you guys have done nothing, because that like goes against it.
Yeah.
But I think, to your point of like, how do you compete against yourself? That's why I love running, right? Because like I'm a white Jewish kid from Manhattan. I'm never going to be the fastest kid out there. Let's call a spade a
Yeah.
spade. But I can train and be faster than I was last year. And I can train harder and work harder. Now, of course, as I get older, I get a little bit slower. So maybe that doesn't always help. But you can, like, that's why I love running, because you're solely competing against yourself now.
I love that. That's what's up. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on today. Before you go,
Amazing.
can you please share your social media and website and whatever other things you have going on? Please share it with our listeners.
Yeah, of course. Instagram is mark-goldfinger. My email address is mark.g@mindspace.me. Send me an email if you're looking for office space or want to come tour one of our locations. We have 6 around the U.S. New York, Miami. We have 2 in Miami, Philadelphia, DC, and San Francisco. We'd love to hook up any of your listeners with a great preferred price. So just shoot me an email, connect with me on LinkedIn. Visit our website at www.mindspace.me. And if you are in our New York office, let me know. I'd love to meet you in person.
Sounds good. Well, I won't take up any more of your time. Thank you so much for talking to me today.
It's been an absolute pleasure. I really appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. And thank you for listening to Connect Like Minds.